Now part of the Darkcast Network. Welcome to Indie Podcasts with a dark side. It started with a frantic 911 call. A mother claiming her sons had been fatally injured in a tragic accident. But what officers discovered inside an Atlanta home was far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. 2 young boys, lifeless, and the disturbing truth about how they died would unravel into one of the most gruesome and heartbreaking cases of love and murder so far. What drove a mother to commit such an unthinkable act? And could it have been prevented? Stay tuned as I tell you the horrible case of Lamora Williams, the tragedy of her children, and the questions that we're still asking. Welcome, lambs. Welcome to Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide. I am your host, Kai, and if you're new here, go ahead and take a listen. Listen till the end. And if you like it, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any more true crime episodes. If you're a returning lamb, I want to say thank you for trusting me to give you your true crime news. Also, I want to remind you that I am on vacation, so this is a quick rant. While I'm on vacation, the quick rants could be anywhere from 5 minutes on up. We will get back to our regularly scheduled program starting in season 5 in January. Now that I got that reminder out of the way, let's get back to the case of Lamora Williams. On the evening of October 13, 2017 in Atlanta, Georgia, the then 24-year-old Lamora Williams called 911 claiming to have come home from work to find her sons dead. 2-year-old Keante Penn and 1-year-old Jakarta Williams. In her call, she said, quote, "When I came in, the stove was laid on my son, on my youngest son's head, and my other son was laid out on the floor with his brains laid out on the floor. I don't know what to do. I just came home from work. Can you please tell me, I don't want to get locked up because this is not my fault." End quote. First of all, I came home to find a stove on my son's head and his head bashed in, and I'm thinking about I don't want to get locked up because it's not my fault. Getting locked up would be the furthest thing from my mind. Anyways, I just wanted to get that out. She also told a 911 operator that the child's caregiver was missing. Around the same time, Jamil Penn, the father of the 2 boys, received a video call from Lamora. During the call, Lamora showed him the lifeless bodies of their children. What? Jamil immediately called 911, telling the operator, quote, "I just received a call from my child's mother that my 2 babies are dead in the apartment. She video called me and I seen it. I really think they're dead." When officers arrived at the scene, they found the children with severe burn marks. A medical examiner's report later revealed that the boys had been placed inside a heated oven where they suffered, quote, "thermal changes from prolonged exposure to dry heat." I hope that's not what I think it sounds like. The autopsy concluded, quote, "it would require an extensive amount of time to get to this degree." The ME deduced that their heads were likely placed inside a tipped-over oven and couldn't rule out if the boys had been killed before being placed in the oven or not. The Atlanta PD arrested Lamora, saying that she, quote, "knowingly and intentionally killed her sons by, quote, placing them in an oven and turning it on." What the frick, lambs? So it was exactly what it sounded like. Thermal changes from prolonged exposure to dry heat. Sounds like you put something in the oven to bake. I know this bitch did not bake her frickin' sons. She was charged with 2 counts of murder and held in Fulton County Jail without bond. Without all the bond. You're lucky I gave you oxygen. Because I would put her in a chamber without oxygen. I'm totally, look, I know for you returning lambs, I don't have to explain this, but for the new lambs, I'm totally not laughing at anything. I think I'm laughing because I'm so angry. Because okay. I have no words, so we're just going to continue on. Lamora's family spoke about her long history of mental health struggles. Her mother, Brenda Williams, stated that Lamora had exhibited troubling behavior since childhood. Quote, "She was a slow learner. I had to pull her out of school and do homeschool. She would do little simple things like cut her, my other daughter, her dolls' heads off. You know, we see stuff like this in horror movies." Lamora had her first child, a daughter, at age 18. Her daughter's father's family helped take care of that child. Lamora then started dating Jamil and had 3 children with him. Jamil ended the relationship in 2017, but supported Lamora financially and physically helped with raising the children. Lamora's sister, Tabitha Hollingsworth, said the tragedy could have been prevented. Quote, "This was something we saw that could possibly happen. She had issues from a baby, issues my mom tried to address with the state of Georgia." Jamil said that Lamora got worse after her father died in 2014. Quote, "Every year after 2014, it got worse and worse. That was her backbone, and when she lost him, she lost the world." Brenda also saw degenerative signs after Lamora and Jamil broke up. Quote, "Mora wasn't right. She hasn't been right, and what happened 3 months ago, that the kid's father left her, I told him something's tragic is going to happen. She's going to do something to those kids. She's going to do something to herself." I mean, I hear the mother, but unfortunately, in terms of her, that's not his place. That's not, like, he can't be trapped in a relationship. But in terms of the kids, he could have talked to the court, the police, and everything like that, stayed with the kids to protect them until he was able to take the kids and leave. But you can't tell somebody that if you leave, something's going to happen to your child, because that's kind of like trapping them in a relationship. That's, I don't know. I don't know how to say this without sounding insensitive, but do you understand where I'm coming from though? Like, you can't put that on him like it's his fault that he left and then I told you something was going to happen. Like, that's no. Brenda had reportedly attempted to gain custody of the children and even contacted Child Protective Services to express her concerns about Lamora's ability to care for them. Why didn't they go out? Like, it sounds like they were trying to do everything they could. She told CPS that Lamora wasn't feeding the kids. Quote, "She had issues, and the fact that the state failed her, that's a problem. She routinely left her children home alone and even attempted to cut her wrists. And nobody went out to check on these children. Nobody listened to all these people that were calling them, trying to get help for these children." While in custody, Lamora had to be placed on suicide watch. Her mother said, quote, "I just came from the jail. I also let them know to put her on suicide watch because she's going to kill herself." So, okay, now you put her on suicide watch. Now y'all are listening, but that's like literally after the fact. What about CPS, protective services, to take care of those children before something bad were to happen? In February 2018, Lamora was indicted on 4 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of concealing the death of another, and 1 count of making a false statement. During her trial in 2024, she pled not guilty and maintained her innocence. Prosecutors said that initially, Lamora claimed that she left the children with a caregiver from noon until 11:30 p.m. Dag, the whole day? But investigators found no evidence to support her story. So her people are saying that she usually leaves them home alone. Were they home for almost 12 hours alone? Was that 11 and a half hours? They said that on the day of the kids' deaths, Lamora called her friend Nisa Smith and told her that their kids were dead. And it was Nisa who convinced her to call 911. So Lamora said, "Okay, I'll do that." But when she hung up with Nisa, she called Jamil instead. And then she called 911. Now, could you imagine being this father and getting that kind of call? Ugh. In court, they told the jury that initially police had reported that the children had been burned. However, the medical examiner disagreed with this and said that the thermal changes came from dry heat and prolonged exposure to heat. So, like I said, like baking. Not that she just put their hand on the oven rack and, took it off. It was more like baking, which is what the ME is saying. Prosecutors argued that Lamora put Jakarta and Keante in the oven sometime between late Thursday night and early Friday morning. Lamora's inconsistent statements and the evidence presented by the prosecutors led to her indictment on 14 charges, including the previously mentioned charges and the later added charges of 2 counts of cruelty to children in the first degree, 1 count of cruelty to children in the second degree, 1 additional count of aggravated assault, 1 count of obstruction of a law enforcement officer, and 1 count of battery resulting in substantial physical harm. During her trial, the jury found her guilty on all counts. On November 15, 2024, Lamora was sentenced to life in prison without parole, plus an additional 35 years. Prosecutors described the case as one of the most disturbing they had ever encountered. Now, my question, you know me and mental health. Did they ever do a mental health evaluation on her? Because her family has been saying she's been having mental health problems her entire life. Everybody in her family is saying that. What does it hurt to get a mental health evaluation on her? Because if this woman is mentally ill and she put these children in the oven because of that, because of her mental illness, what good is it if she's just in prison for life? What good is that? Isn't prison supposed to be rehabilitation? So if she has mental health issues, maybe put her in a prison-related mental health institution to actually get her rehabilitated. I'm not saying she needs to be running free, but she actually needs to be getting the help, not just sitting in prison while our tax dollars pays for it and we know she's not getting rehabilitated. Jamil described the crime as something out of a, quote, real horror movie. He goes on to say, quote, "It was Friday the 13th when I saw my kid. How I saw my kid. That's when I knew something was going on. I want everyone to use my story as a helping hand. I lost my 2 young boys to violence, and I want to be a difference maker in someone else's life to prevent a child being hurt. I want to prevent another tragedy like this from happening." End quote. Lamora's case highlights the importance of mental health resources, listening to people who call CPS and giving you a really good reason for you to come out, telling you that this woman has mental health issues and we're trying to get her help. We really need to reform how we deal with mental health in this country because this is getting frickin' ridiculous. And we really need to do something to, I don't know, I know CPS, they're really backed up. They're not having any help, but I don't know. I have no answers. I need you lambs to tell me in the comments below. Like, help me out. Let's brainstorm maybe. Get some answers and maybe somebody will listen. Maybe somebody will hear what we have to say and maybe you'll give them ideas on how to fix this, either with the mental health crisis or with the child protective services crisis, because I want to call that a crisis too. Anyway, that's all I have for you for this episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I am freaking the F out. Let's end our episode how we end all our full episodes. And I want to remind you, let's just calm down for a second because this was an episode. This was just, but while we're calming down, I want to remind you, as I always end my full episodes, that it's all love and no murder, y'all. Please, no murder, y'all. Stay tuned for my commercial guests. Bye.
Are you drawn to the dark? Do you find yourself enticed in the forbidden and ominous? Join me, Steph, as I explore all things menacing and malevolent in my podcast, Sinister Story Hour. I discuss true stories of cults and crimes, with the occasional urban legend. I also dedicate episodes to missing persons in the United States. And you could be the missing link to provide information and clues that will help to bring them home. Join me every week for a new story. Come on in, sit down, and get ready, because it's story time.